usually I don't share these specific types of miracles because it's so non-denominational. But for your audience, holy cow, this is just crazy. I got off the phone and I was in awe for days. I couldn't. I felt like I was in a dream.
Hey guys, well, I have a story for you. I love how the Lord works because, as most of you know, I rarely do interviews on this channel, but every once in a while, someone crosses my path and I just need to tell their story. And that's the case with today's video. Not only is this an incredible story that everyone needs to hear, but it's also an exciting announcement. I apologize in advance for any sound or technical issues throughout the video, but I know that you'll still feel the spirit of this incredible message and story. For those of you who remember the Manti pageant and how special that was, and for all of you pageant lovers out there who plan your road trips and visits across the country to attend certain pageants, I have something special to share with you. And for those of you who have never been to a pageant, well, it's never too late. And let me tell you, this is one pageant you're going to want to experience. Last month, I had the privilege of meeting Ned, who is the producer of a new pageant called the Spirit of Freedom, taking place in Manti, Utah. For those of you who remember the video I did about the Brewer caves, that's been one of my more popular videos. That documentary took place down in Manti. I'll have the link down below if you want to check that out. Manti has a special place in my heart. It's where my dad is from. My grandma still lives there. In fact, it is such a small world. Let me just say, last week when I was working in the temple, I happened to be talking to another ordinance worker, and he told me that he used to live in Manti and he used to work in the Manti temple. So I told him, I said, "You probably know my grandma, Caroline Kavner." And then he said, "Wait a minute, that's your grandma? I think my grandpa married your grandma." And I said, "Is your grandpa Bill?" And he said, "Yes." So turns out we have that connection. It's a small world. We both attended their wedding years ago, and Bill has since passed away, but my grandma still lives in her home in Manti. She's an incredible woman, and her son, who is my uncle, David, had this connection, Ned, who he invited to our family reunion last month and had him share this message and story. And when I heard it, I knew that I needed to share it on my channel. You guys, this is an incredible story, and this is something that is going to bless so many people. Not just people in San Pete County, not just people here in Utah, and not just Christians, but people of all walks of life, of all faiths, from all backgrounds, and from all over the world. This is an incredible story that has gone unknown for centuries, a piece of history that had been forgotten, and now it's being resurrected and brought to life. A story that will inspire you to want to be a part of sharing this message of this spirit of freedom. It's the story of how one man from centuries ago in England played a very important role in the founding of America, in establishing that spirit of freedom. Now, before I interview Ned and some of his team members, I want to start by playing you a trailer from this pageant. You have to see it for yourself. Check it out.
In the spirit of the beloved Mormon miracle pageant in Manti, Utah. Join us each summer for an unforgettable night. A brand new theatrical experience for the entire family about faith and freedom. Featuring original music that will touch your heart and inspire your soul. Journey back to 1600s England and witness the true story of those who risked everything to defend their unwavering belief in Christ.
The Spirit of Freedom is a new original non-denominational musical. I talked to the producer of the musical, Ned Armstrong, who says he felt inspired as he wrote.
stake your claim, cry for freedom. When in darkness, never mourn. Just stake your claim. You're the beacon for men as yet unborn. Stake your claim. Listen now to your conscience. Let it guide you so you can see that every man holds the answer, and freedom is the key. Stake your claim.
Hi, I'm Ned Armstrong. Today we're witnessing a deliberate effort to dismantle the values that once unified this nation: faith, family, and freedom. A strategic assault is underway, seeking to belittle America's hard-won freedoms and cast America's miraculous founding in a negative light. It's time to change the narrative. The Spirit of Freedom aims to remind America of its true founding fathers, God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. This adaptation of Exile by Helene Holt casts a truthful light on America's history by unveiling the tyranny and oppression that came before. It shows heaven's hand working with faithful Christians to shape a new world of religious liberty for all. With your help, this non-denominational pageant will launch here at the Sanpete County Fairgrounds in Manti, Utah, with plans to expand to other states in the years ahead. Please consider donating what you can to change our completed script into a living testimony. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone. First of all, I wanted to start by talking about how we met. So for those of you, for my viewers out there, some of you know that I have family that live down in Manti, and recently we had kind of like a reunion. My grandma turned 98 this year. We had a birthday party for her, and we went down to meet with family. And I met Ned. Suddenly this man gets up and he just starts sharing this amazing story and starts playing this beautiful music. And I was so intrigued. I still wasn't quite sure what was going on. And then I went over and talked with him, and he had this amazing story. And I said, I have to interview you. So I want to talk to you. I want to learn more about this. Ned, go ahead and just start out and tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got started with this project.
Yeah, I'm Ned Armstrong, and I grew up here in Manti, Utah. That's where I'm at right now. And a huge part of my life was the Mormon Miracle Pageant, which I performed in most of the years of my life. And that ended in 2019, which was really hard for me personally, and really hard for, I believe, many members of the town, and for businesses and things like that. So in 2022, I decided that I was going to try and fix our town somehow. I started to come up with a lot of different ideas on what we could do to revive tourism to Manti and have that light that we used to have and that unity in our community. And I had a lot of really dumb ideas. I had some terrible ideas. And at Thanksgiving dinner in 2022, my mother-in-law had a better idea, and we were talking about all this, and she said, what about a new pageant? And I immediately said, we can't do that. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints ended funding for the old pageant, and so we can't just start a new one. And she said, well, not about church history, not associated with the church, about freedom. And I just felt light just fill me from my head to toe. I was just sure that this needed to happen. Even so, the very next day, I went to church. And I talked to the chairman of the Constitutional Party, who's in my ward, and I told him this idea. He loved it. So he took me the next day to go see Jane Brathwaite, who's here in town. She's a prominent member of the community. We told her the idea, and turns out she had been planning for there to be a patriotic pageant in Manti for years. That was something on her list of things to someday have. So I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And we just started having meetings in town and started getting it going. And the path after that has just been filled with miracles, just jam-packed. It's been incredible.
That is awesome. And I'm going to ask you about those miracles in just a minute. And I love, like you talked about the Manti, it was called the Manti Mormon Miracle Pageant. And as kids, I mean, all of our memories, our whole life. We just every year went to this pageant. And I remember when they ended it, we were devastated. And, a lot of my family, my cousins and uncles and aunts, they lived down there. And every year they were in that pageant. It was so special. It was something we always looked forward to. And so when I heard at first I thought you were resurrecting the pageant. And I was like, no way. How did that happen? And then I heard that no, you had created something new and something amazing because I love that it speaks to everyone. It's not just for Latter-day Saints or people wanting to learn about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's something about freedom and it unites everyone. So tell me a little bit more about that. And then I'm going to get to everyone else on the call too, because you guys have so many incredible stories. Tell me how that's been, what the response has been as people find out about this new pageant and how it's just more of a message of unity coming together and freedom.
Yeah, I think overall the reception has been really positive. A lot of people are very excited to have a new pageant here. And as far as the non-denominational aspect, because it's still very Christian, and it's focused on religious liberty, it kind of took a life of its own. Originally, I was going to have it be about George Washington and Ben Franklin, and that's the direction I was heading. But that's not the direction God wanted it to go. It just kind of went a completely different direction, and the path was paved before us. And now it's about religious liberty, and it's focused in England, not even in America. And I think that fact will help bring people, because there's a lot of people right now that don't like our founding fathers and things like that, and they have less faith in our country than maybe they could. And I think this pageant will be able to pull in all Christians and others of any political ideology and celebrate the freedoms that we have and celebrate religious liberty. So I don't know how the reception will go among all Christians in the U.S. I think that they'll love it. The script itself has no doctrine that's specific to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's nothing in there that could be protested. It's just Christian, and it's really good. It's so well written. I didn't write it. I love it. And it's just really powerful. So I hope everyone just comes and enjoys it. So
I love that. Yeah, the goal would be for people to come in from outside of Utah and make a trip of it. Come here, come see the pageant, and then come enjoy the beauty of Utah. And I think it's amazing. And I'm guessing, I mean, I have family that live down there. It was a pretty devastating blow to the local economy when the pageant shut down. So hopefully this will be something that can resurrect that tourism. And I think that's awesome. Now, real quick, tell me a little bit about your background with writing. Is this the first time you put together a production? Have you done this before?
So, no, I've never done anything.
I love
I've never organized even a meeting before. Everything is new to me. It's been very humbling. And I think the fact that it's me doing this is kind of a testament that it's of God. Otherwise, it just could not be coming together the way that it has. I think that when God wants to tell somebody that he's in charge, he has kind of the village idiot do it, or somebody small like David fighting Goliath, or somebody that just doesn't know what they're doing. Or in the Bible, there's examples of armies where he wants the army to be even smaller, right? Mm-hmm. So that they can win and they'll know that God was the one that won. And that's kind of what I feel happening here. We'll talk about it. I wrote several of the songs, and I don't know how to read notes. So there's just been some crazy things that have happened with this, and it's been a really big learning experience for me. I'm actually a software developer.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, so
I love it.
Yeah, I do write songs. I have written songs for years and years and years, but just by ear, and never anything like what we put together for this pageant. It's all been like really dumb like alternative rock.
Yes.
And this is not that. This is really good stuff. So.
Okay, what I love about this story, and we're going to get to Hamish because it sounds like you have a similar experience where you're like, I don't feel like I had a ton of experience writing music scores, but here I go. I'm doing this. I love that because I think there's a lot of viewers who follow my channel. I'm one of them. I have to say I can relate because that's what I do. I have these ideas, I write music, I do things, but I don't have the background, the experience. And so when something happens, I'm like, that was totally from him. There's no way. And so I love that You are the perfect illustration of that. And I think people watching this will be very inspired that, hey, maybe God can use me somehow, in some way. And I love it. I can't wait to get to all the miracles. So let's move on to Hamish. So, Hamish, you're the music guy. And
Yes, I
let me
am.
tell you, I listened to the samples you sent me of the songs and I watched the videos, and it is incredible. I got all the goosebumps. I'm feeling them right now. I got all the goosebumps, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And even if you didn't have a chance to see the pageant, just hearing the music is just incredibly moving, and it tells a story just in the music. So tell me now how you got pulled into this and a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your background, and just blow us away. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, thank you. So as you said, my name's Hamish. I'm from Sydney, Australia, which is obviously a fair bit away from here. So I immigrated here about a year and a half ago or so. And yeah, I love it here. America's great. And I got involved with the project. I met Ned, because my work permit had just been approved. And so I was looking out there trying to find people I could write music for, try and find, yeah, somewhere I could write. My background with music, I am a classically trained composer and saxophonist. I write mostly for saxophone quartets and wind ensembles and orchestras and choirs. A lot of large ensemble stuff is kind of where I really found my passion back in Sydney. And so I found this conference that my wife recommended that she goes to for a writing and editing called LDS PMA, Latter-day Saints in the Publishing, Media, and the Arts. And she said, hey, there's a music track. You should go have a look. See if you meet anyone. So, okay, I'll go have a look over there. And I was looking primarily for someone to write like orchestral music for, but I was like, oh, we'll kind of see, maybe some wind band stuff. We'll see what happens. And I met some incredible people. It was a really cool opportunity. But the one that stood out, obviously, was meeting Ned. So I go into this workshop for this one class, and it was more of a pop music workshop, something I wasn't super interested in, but I was like, hey, I'll go have a listen to it. I'll go have a look. And I see this guy who turns out to be Ned sitting by himself. So I'm like, oh, I'll go introduce myself to him, see who he is. And I ask what he's working on. He tells me about this story about a guy called Reverend John Lothropp, which I'm sure Ned will go more into the story later. But it's an incredible story. And so I spent most of the next hour not listening to the guy giving the presentation, but instead looking up Reverend John Lothropp and kind of hearing more about his story and hearing more about who he is. And after the workshop, I approached Ned and I was like, hey, I love this guy. He's amazing. I want to be a part of this team. I want to help the project. And so Ned says, great, get you in. And I started writing music for it. So it kind of just all snowballed from there.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I saw a clip of you speaking at a fireside, and I just love it. And I recognize that building. That's the building where my grandma goes to church. I've been there.
Oh.
I love it. I just feel this connection. So are you here right now in Utah?
Yeah, I'm in Provo, Utah. So
Okay.
I was a music teacher back in Sydney, but in order to teach here in America, I either need to have worked internationally for a few years, which I didn't work long enough, or get a bachelor's here. So I'm just getting my bachelor's at BYU so I can go back to being a music teacher and
Hey,
kind of live that life that I love.
I love it. That's a great plan.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And had you ever been to Utah before? Was this your first time?
I'd been here once for about a week on holiday. I'm visiting my now wife, and I was here in the MTC before I started my mission. Well, I could
Oh,
start
nice.
my mission.
Where'd you serve your
Mhm.
mission?
I was originally called to Japan, hence being in the Provo MTC learning Japanese, but it was 2020 February. So COVID ended up reassigning me back to Adelaide, Australia, which is like the middle third of the country.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's fun. I
awesome.
like it.
I love it. I love it. So, what is one thing you found or you discovered about yourself as you were helping with the music? I'm sure there were a lot of challenges, but what was something where you came into it and you're like, how am I going to do this? To where you get to the point where you're like, whoa, we did this. Tell me what that was
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, well, so as I said, I'm a classically trained composer. I've been composing for the better part of 10 years, the last 10 years of my life or so. But I've always written for people to play my pieces of music. I've written for live ensembles, live musicians. And when you write for a live musician, there's certain stuff you don't have to say. Musicians will just interpret a musical line. They'll make it sound good no matter really what you write. And so that's what I was used to. But for this project, just due to I guess our budget and the nature of what we're writing, I'm writing for a lot of virtual instrumentation. So a computer trying to sound like an instrument. And that has been a wild challenge trying to get that to sound the way I want it to. I'll tell the computer to play something and it plays it exactly as I tell it. And like, no, I wanted it with a little bit more humanity and musicianship. And so it was a big learning curve trying to learn how to write for these different softwares. But I don't know, there were so many points where I would be in a class and a professor would be like, none of you are ever going to need to write this kind of music for these kind of instruments. But if you do, do these things. There was like a fleet run that did that, or there was a company that they normally sell their software for about $1,500 and they had a sale. They were like, we're just going to sell them for $100 and see if anyone wants them. So all these little things fell into place that made it possible for me to write that music. And then just a lot of time. It's been most of the last 10 months, I think, writing it, and I've still got a couple more left in it just to finish it off. But,
Wow.
yeah.
That is incredible. I feel like this is going to be one of those things that really catches on and people are just going to wake up in the middle of the night with the songs playing in their head. It's just going to be, it's going to be amazing. I love it. So now I'm going to move on to Kate and I'm going to pull you into this. So you are the costume designer, is that right?
Yeah.
And you, I saw a little piece of you sharing at the same fireside. So I'm curious, just go ahead and tell everyone out there how you got pulled into this and how it started out for you, what your background is, and yeah, your experience so far with it, because it takes place in this, is it the 1600s, the costume, the time period? Okay.
Yeah.
What's that like designing costumes for that era? I'm curious.
That's a lot of questions.
Yes.
So I got into this. I got into costumery as a whole. Just, it's something I've always loved. I've specifically loved theater and even more specifically Shakespeare. So I was performing in Shakespeare plays from the time I was 12, and I was directing Shakespeare plays by the time I was like 17. And I just lived in that world. But one of my favorite things about Shakespeare was that you can take those stories and they make sense. Even if you take the exact same script that Shakespeare wrote, it makes sense in every era, right? So I would take these plays and I would choose an era and then we would set it in that era. So I had, but because I was directing mostly for homeschool groups. I was homeschooled growing up and I'm homeschooling my kids now. So I was working with homeschool groups mostly to do these plays. And so there wasn't a lot of help. So I was the director, I was the producer, I was the costume director, I was doing everything. I was doing sets and costumes and everything. But I always went the most out on costumes because I love costumes. So I have studied historical clothing in detail, like everything I know about history, which is a lot because I was a homeschooler that loved history, comes basically, it's like based on the costumes, what they wore. And so like that's I don't know, if I was to like show a timeline in my brain of how I understand history, it's by the clothing that people wore. And so I got into this project because the moms of some of the students I had been working with reached out to me and was like, hey, my brother is putting together a pageant and it's like historical-ish, but like you should talk to him because he needs someone to help with costumes. And every costume, like every show that I've seen you do with the costumes has been awesome. I just think you'd be great at this. And so at that point in time, I had just taken a break from the homeschool group I'd been working with because I had really little kids and I had been having issues trying to figure things out with where my stepkids are going to school. So I was taking a break from the homeschool group and was wanting something I could work on that didn't require me to be at a homeschool group every week, So when I started talking to him, it was like my dream pageant. It takes place in I think the dates that we're looking at the most are 1622 and 1623. So we're looking at the 1620s, which is an absolutely wild time period as far as what people were wearing. We're like right at the front edge. We've just left the Tudors, which was a very regal and uptight kind of, I don't know, dynasty, I guess you'll call it. And we're moving into the Stuart era, which is very taking a lot of inspiration from France in their flamboyance and their excess and their just craziness. And so the fashion of this era is absolutely wild and I love it and it's so much fun. But yeah.
I love that. And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it when it's all together. When do tickets go on sale, by the way? I was just curious.
Oh, we don't know yet. So the goal is to hold our first production in June, at the end of June of 2026. That's our goal.
Okay.
That depends on fundraising, which is where we're at right now. Everything's done so we have the script done and it's in final draft state. Hamish has finished the score for every single scene. All the songs are arranged. There's a few touches left to do in improving the songs, which Hamish is doing in just improving the samples. But other than that, we're ready to put this thing together. It's just funding. So if we can pull off the funding by June of 2026 or sooner than that, hopefully, so that we can start really getting all the equipment we need, sound, lighting, set pieces, and all of that, then we can do it in June.
Okay.
We have
And we're
about
going
a
to get
year.
to I want to get to that in a minute because I want to talk about how our viewers can help you because we want to help make this happen. And before we get to that, we need to hear about who this main character is. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there watching who are thinking, I've never heard of this man in my life because I remember when you were talking to me about him, I thought, I'm familiar with a lot of American history, a little bit of world history, and I've never heard of this man before. John Lothropp. So he is considered a father of this country, and you say he's the forgotten father. So tell me about that. Tell me how you came across his story, summarize it for us, and then tell me what the response has been like as you talk to people about this and they think, or they say to you, I've never heard of this man. We have to tell the story. Has that been your experience?
Yeah,
That was a lot of questions.
I'll start by telling how we found John Lothropp, because I had never heard of him either. I had no idea who he was. So what happened was we had a writer who was in the Christian film industry, and he had to back out. He got put on a bunch of projects. He's like, I don't have time. But he said, before he left, he said, I want to tell you my idea. He said, I wanted to do a Broadway musical style thing, a live Broadway musical style thing for the pageant, connecting heaven and earth in the creation of America. And that was so much better than what I had imagined. I'd thought about the big arm motions and the pre-recorded track, like the old pageant. And this was totally new to me. And it got me thinking, where are we going to find a songwriter? And I thought, well, I do write songs. I'll sit down on the piano and see what happens. I had just gone to see Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat put on by Manti High School. And I thought, these songs aren't that bad. So I sat down on the piano and started writing. And I was thinking about Ben Franklin, actually, when I started writing. And that's not what came out. This crazily amazing song came out, and I started writing down the words and the music. And it was about a reverend in England and his family seeking for religious liberty. And I thought, well, that was unexpected. And I had this song, and I got on our Spirit of Freedom Pageant Facebook group, and I asked if anybody knew who this reverend might be. And someone sent me an email. A man in town sent me an email that had a history of John Lothropp. He said, this is my ancestor. This might be your man. And I thought, okay. So I read about John Lothropp a little bit, and it just was right. It was completely right. This man is incredible. So I just kept writing. I started writing more and more songs, and they just kind of flowed into my brain. I can't really describe it. It was December and January of 2023. So 2023, December, 2024, January. I was writing like so much, and I didn't have a lot of work to do at the time. Our team had slowed down quite a bit. And so I was writing so much that I wasn't eating.
Oh.
I wasn't eating, and I was barely sleeping, and I just was constant songwriting. And so I was just writing and writing and writing. I found some computer software that I figured out how to use without reading notes. I was just kind of clicking on things and feeding the music I was writing into that. And so all that was happening. And during that songwriting phase about John Lothropp, someone said, you need to read this book. It's called Exiled. And I'll show you this book.
There it is. There it is. Yep.
There we go. Exiled by Helene Holt. So I start reading this book, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And between each chapter, I felt inspired to write another song. So about halfway through the book, I thought, I need to talk to this woman, Helene Holt. I need to find her. And so I asked my Facebook group, and someone said, well, she's in my ward. I'll just get her number. And I thought, oh, that's unexpected. She lives in Mount Pleasant here in San Pete. She's actually from California, but she moved here, and she's been living here in San Pete. So I got her on the phone, and I said, hello, I'm Ned Armstrong. We're thinking about creating a new Manti pageant, and it's a musical, and I'd like to adapt your book, Exiled. And she said, oh, yes, absolutely. You can adapt it. I give you full permission. And then she said, and I don't know if you are interested, but would you like the screenplay too? Because I wrote a screenplay and the movie project fell through. Do you want that? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take a screenplay, because all I had was music. I didn't have anything else at the time. And that was just a miracle. And then her husband, his name's Tom Brooks. she kept her name Helene Holt when they got married, because she's an author. But Tom Brooks, he got on the phone and said, "Wait, did you say this was a musical?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he said, "Well, would you, I don't know if you'd be interested, but we were going to make a musical of this story one time as well, about 10 years ago. I have 12 pieces of music, 8 lyric songs, and 4 score pieces written for a musical of the book. Would you like those too?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll take it." And then I said, "Well, the songs I've been doing on Muse Score, the software I found." He's like, "Well, that's the same software I'm using. So this will be really easy I can send you my files and everything." And I was like, "Holy cow, this is just crazy." I got off the phone and I was in awe for days. I couldn't, I felt like I was in a dream because it was so crazy. I'd been working on this so hard. And then to have all of this just come out of nowhere, it was just incredible. And so that's kind of where we got the story. Hey, that time I decided to show it. Exile.
Yes.
But the story. So I'll tell you a little bit about John Lothropp. So you can look him up, anybody who wants to. He's actually really well known. There's several novels written about him other than Exile. There's one called The Pulse of His Soul that's also really good, and we can talk about that later. But the story is that there's a man in 1600 England who was a perpetual curate for the Church of England. So he was like a minister, and he started to not agree with the Church of England. He started to feel like they weren't right. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were torturing people who disagreed with the Church of England. So at the time, if you didn't go to church, then you could be fined. And if you missed enough church, you could be pilloried. And if you spoke up against the church or preached in private without a license, anything else but the Church of England's doctrines, you could be, it was pretty violent. They'd put you in the stocks, they'd cut your ears off, they'd slit your nostrils, and they'd put you in prison. And many people died in prison because the prisons at the time were just terrible. They were infested with disease and lice and filth, and they were overcrowded, and a lot of them didn't have much food that they were getting, just stale bread and water. So people died in prison. John Lothropp, though, he believed in Christ. He worshiped Christ, and he believed the Bible, and he believed that the Church of England wasn't teaching exactly what the Bible taught. And so he started teaching. He became the leader of the independent church in England. And so he was preaching in secret in illegal meetings in people's homes all over London. And he knew the risks, but he felt that he was called of God to teach the Bible to people, and he just did it anyways. He was a very courageous man. And eventually, yes, he was caught, and his congregation, and they were arrested, and he was put in the worst conditions in a prison called Newgate Prison. And he spent years in there. And while he was in there, and I'll give some spoilers because I might as well. If anybody Googles this story, they'll find the same things. But while he was in prison, his wife died and his children were left on the street. And the Bishop Laud was the archbishop at the time, or the Bishop of London. He became the archbishop. But he told John, he said, "Hey, all you have to do is deny your faith. That's it. And I'll let you go." And John Lothropp said, "No, no." And I mean, you can't even understand. I mean, like, his kids were left alone, and his wife had died, and he still held to his faith. Eventually, he was exiled to America. Bishop Laud decided that if he could just get rid of him, that would be better than keeping him in prison, because his congregation continued to grow while he was in prison. So he said, "If you'll go to America and take as many of your followers as you can with you, you can go." And at the time, America was considered very dangerous, and the ship ride was very dangerous. So it was considered a punishment. But he was sent to the New World with his kids and several of his followers, and they set a foundation in the New World for what religious liberty should be. And he preached religious liberty heavily as a reverend in New England. So he's an incredible man, just an incredible story, very inspiring for anyone.
Wow, that is incredible. I'm going to go Google him afterwards as well. I want all the details. I want to talk about, if each of you want to take a minute to share, what do you think one of the most amazing miracles you've experienced so far through this process has been, how you've seen God move through you and be a part of this or use you to make this happen. Tell me just real quick, just something that you've really been amazed by. So whoever wants to start first, maybe we'll just go in order. We'll go down, we'll go to Hamish, Kate, and back to Ned. Just tell me one thing that's really stood out to you that you think our viewers would really be blessed to know. Kind of put you on the spot there.
I need a second to think. Sorry. I think this is less of a miracle of something that's happened, but something that's really inspired me. And I think part of the reason why this pageant is succeeding and why I think it will succeed more in the future is just the incredible story of John. I don't know, like I think there's so many parts. So like the music is great. I like to think that the score I've written is great. The work we've done, the costume, like all this stuff has been really amazing. But at the end of the day, the passion that we all feel for this comes because of the Reverend, but because of John. And I don't know, like there's so many times when I was scoring the script that I would be reading through the script for like the 17th time. And this is a story I've read many, many times before. But I would just be getting in tears and I'd just be like, this man means so much to me. I've never even met him. I'm not one of his descendants like so many of the other people here are. But he's just incredible. He's inspiring. He's something that we can all learn something from. We can all learn how to be as humble as the Reverend and as faithful as the Reverend and really just stand for our convictions. And I don't know, the more I read his story, the more passionate I feel about him. He's an incredible man.
I love that. Thank you. I'm sure my dad will watch this and he'll want me to say he served a mission in Australia. We have a special place for Australia in our family. Just had to say that. So thank you for sharing. So Kate, go ahead and share with us something that you've noticed that's really been amazing throughout this whole process.
I am like at the beginning end of my process, right? They're just barely getting done with the script. So like I've kind of had some time to research for, well, probably been over a year now since I first reached out to Ned, but I'm really getting into like the actual details of things now that the script is done. So much of the work that I'm able to do, it's been like so, I don't know, inspired and inspiring. Like every time I go and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to solve this problem, or I don't know how to solve this problem. Like I'll go back to the history, I'll go back to my original sources, and I'm always able to find the answers so incredibly quickly that it's been just amazing. Crazy things of like, okay, trying to figure out, okay, how do I sort colors and organize people and how do I make it look so it's somewhat sourcely accurate, but also kind of making it so that it makes sense. That big pageant where you can't see faces from the audience very good. So everything is based on large details that you see in the costumes. And like, I get some ideas and I start writing it down and then I go back to the history and I'm like, oh, that's actually so amazingly historically accurate that I didn't even know what I was doing before I started, and it's been so fun to see how the history and the inspiration I'm getting as I'm drawing out costume sketches and coming up with, just the plans and everything has been so awesome to just see and be able to be a part of.
I love that when you have those experiences where you're like, I don't know how I know this, but I know it and I'm seeing it and it's happening and it's not for me. So very inspired. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Ned, go ahead. Share with us something that you've noticed. And I mean, even that story alone where you talked about how the play or the script had already been written in advance and you were not expecting that. That was a miracle in itself. And I'm sure they thought the same about you, that someone would come along one day wanting to turn this into something, right? So go ahead and share with us.
I've got to tell a little bit more about that because we ended up not using the script directly because it was a movie script, but we used a book and the movie script. And I'll point out some other people that have helped real quick. So a local man named Corey Howard, who's a local playwright and he's a drama teacher at the high school. He did an adaptation by using the script and the book and did an adaptation for more of a pageant musical vibe with the songs that I had taken from my songs and from Tom's songs. And so we didn't use that script directly, but we had this new script and it was finished. And then just as we were like, okay, this is the final draft, then I got a phone call from a woman named Ora Smith. I'm going to hold this book up right. And she contacted me and she said, I'm a historical writer and I've written a book about John Lothropp and I want to know, can I help with this in any way? And this is her book right here, if I can get it, The Pulse of His Soul. And so she said, can I send you some books? I have a friend coming down to Manti and I'll send you some books. I said, don't worry about it, I'll order it. And so ordered a copy and started reading and then we got emailing and she said, well, how can I help? And I said, well, you could read the script. And she said, okay. And she read it, and then she said, "You know what? There's a lot of historical inaccuracies here. I've studied this story for years, and the language isn't quite right for the time period. Can I fix it?" And then she spent the next 9 months going through and just, oh man, this script was good, and now it's incredible. She brought it to the next level. So we have two writers for this script, plus Helene Holt, who wrote this book, and Aura was able to actually add a few scenes from her book into it, some of the most powerful and impactful scenes, and we'll point those out in the when people watch this, what scenes those are. So there's another miracle, is Aura showing up. Your viewers are primarily members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is that correct? So I'll share a miracle that has more to do with that, because usually I don't share these specific types of miracles because it's so non-denominational. But for your audience, one of the things that was the most important to me was getting my wife's support. She was so supportive as I was. I mean, I'll tell you, after December, I had been writing and writing and writing, and I had kind of lost touch with reality and being sucked into. I actually had a fever. I was so focused on writing that I got sick and just kept writing and writing. And then I started again in January after Christmas, and did a whole bunch more. And at that time, she said, "Ned, you need to stop." She's like, "The kids need you. We need you at home. You just need to stop this." And I was like, "Okay, I'll take a big break and I'll just drop it, and I'll stop for, as long as it takes until I need to start again. Because this is important. I know it's important. I need to do this, but I'll stop for a time." And then we went to the temple, and we both went into the temple, and I opened the scriptures, and I was kind of reading while we were sitting in the temple, and the Spirit just told me, "Ned, you can't stop. You actually need to work harder." And I was like, "Oh, you're kidding me. Like, I can't. What am I going to tell Kim?" But I knew it was just the Spirit just telling me, "You can't stop. You can't slow down. You need to speed up. You need to accelerate." And I was so worried about. So after the session, I went to talk to Kim, and I was like, "Okay, Kim." And she's like, "Ned, I have to tell you something. The Spirit told me that I need to support you more, and you need to work even harder." And so it's one of those miracles that maybe doesn't look as big as the story coming together and these people coming in and volunteering to help and all this, but it's one that made it so that I could continue and work hard and have the support of my wife and family. So it was important to me.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, it's so true. What's important to us matters to God, and it's important to Him. And I can see that His hand has been in all of this. It's incredible to see how you've all come together. And I know there's more people on your team than just the three of you here today. You've got a pretty decent team I saw on your website. Do you want to mention anything about any of them real quick? Or
Yeah, I just say go to the website. If
go
you
to the
go
website.
to www, you'll have a link, right?
I'll have a link.
www.spiritoffreedompageant.com. And if you go to, there's a couple sections there. You can go to history section and you can read the origin story as I told it here, but there's a few more details in there. But if you go to the team section, you can see all these people that have just stepped up and said, "Hey, I have a talent. I'd like to help." I just got another phone call the other day. And there's
Wow.
another miracle, somebody who's a director and is very experienced, and she's said, "Can I read the script? Can I go through it? I'd like to help." And I'm like, "Yes, of course." There's, the Sherry Dew, I believe, was it her who became the president of Deseret Books?
Yeah.
And there's a story of her when she was called and she talked to, I can't remember who she talked to, the prophet, and said, "I wish I was smarter. This is a big task." And he said, "I wish you were smarter too. But are you smart enough to find people who are smarter than you?" And that has really how this has worked out for me, because I have no idea what I'm doing. But these people that are much smarter than me, like Kate and like Hamish and like Aura and like Helene Holt and Tom Brooks, who actually know what they're doing, have just stepped up and have been doing the work. So I'm kind of like guiding it from the side, but I feel like I'm more of a puppet. I feel like it's being directed from the other side of the veil in many ways. I feel the presence of some of John Lothrop's family members quite often as I work on this. I watch strings being pulled that I have nothing to do with, where people volunteer and feel inspired to help, that I typically don't even talk to them first, like Hamish and Kate. It's been incredible. So
I want to talk about now what you need, because I know you were mentioning how right now it's going to be an outdoor pageant. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
yeah, we do want to do it outdoors. We don't have the access to the Temple Hill, which I think is actually great for a non-denominational pageant. We would rather not do it there. But we are going to try to do it at the fairgrounds, which in Manti, if you look it up, the Sanpete County Fairgrounds, they're actually only 300 yards from where the old pageant was. So you'd still be right under the temple, which is really cool. So people who enjoyed the Mormon Miracle Pageant, or as we usually call it in town, the Manti Pageant, people who enjoy the Manti Pageant will feel a very similar experience, a very spiritual experience, historically accurate, very powerful, and they'll be right under the temple as they used to be. That's our plan. So, and it's large. It's very ambitious. We couldn't do it indoors. We have scenes planned that have hundreds of cast members. We could probably pull it off with 100 people, but for the best impact, some of the scenes would require, up to 500 to 700 people. And I think we won't have trouble getting that. I mean, the old pageant had between 750 and 1,000 people volunteer each year. And if we're able to pay people, we'll have no trouble.
Okay, awesome. So how can my viewers help you? What do you need from them? And how can they help spread the word? What can they do? And I will have all the links down below. So,
I mean, if you do the math real quick, the Mormon Miracle Pageant costs $100,000 a year. That's what I was told, which is a lot. And we could, with the amount of help we're getting, we could probably do it for that or less than that. Maybe it'll be more. Doing the math that we've done so far, it looks like we could do it for $100,000. And if you do the math on that, if 5,000 people donate $20, we're there. And that's not too bad. I think there are 5,000 people in this state who missed a Mormon Miracle Pageant enough to sacrifice, a burger and fries or a movie ticket and popcorn for one person to contribute to this new pageant. I don't think that's too big of an ask. And obviously, if there are people with more money than that wanted to say, like, hey, this is really cool. I support religious liberty. I want to hear this story. I want to see this. Then larger donations are definitely welcome. And then we will, this ticket we'll probably have to charge tickets for. The Mormon Miracle Pageant, it was free because the church took that from, I think, the missionary funds, and they held it with those. But we won't have those resources. So we plan to charge as little as we can every year to be able to pay everyone and to be able to have the money for the following year so that we can keep producing it.
I know that a lot of my viewers live down in Sanpete County and have family down there. And I know a lot of people who live down there, and they would be more than happy to spread the word and share. In fact, when I was talking to some of my relatives at the reunion, they said, I live down here and I haven't even heard about this. It's been kept secret. So the cat's out of the bag now, right? People are starting to hear about it. I know you just did an appearance.
Yeah, there was a short show on Fox 13. And if you can look that up and watch it on our YouTube channel. If you look up Spirit of Freedom Pageant on YouTube, you'll find that. So Fox 13 did one. And then Hamish, actually, we're not hearing enough from everybody. Hamish, will you tell them about our other interview that we just did?
Yeah, so Ned Ora, who's the author of the Pulse of His Soul book and was the historian for this project and editor, she did amazing work. So the three of us went up to Salt Lake. And Ned, you have to remind me what the name of the news company was. I'm still kind of learning out a lot of the
market. Yeah, it's KUER. It's NPR for Utah.
That one. So we did an interview with them, and it was great. We're up there for about an hour and a half, kind of interviewing and having a chat with yeah, it was good.
Tell me what your goal is. What do you hope the outcome is by next year? What do you see this looking like? What are your hopes? I mean, I can imagine, I can fill in the blank of what you would say, but I want to hear it from you guys.
I don't know. I really hope that there's a huge amount of emotion that you can get across when you are able to use live performance that we don't get to see as often as I think a lot of people would like in our modern world of just TV and television and shows. Spirit of a production can be so strong. And when you have live music and live acting. So I really hope that people can come to this and remember what it feels like, I guess, to see a live production, and especially a live production with such a meaningful message, because that is something that has been slowly disappearing from our society for so long.
Absolutely. Does anyone else want to add to that? Anything you hope will be the result of this, or what you hope to see by next year, besides a production that's ready to go, right? With ticket sales happening.
So if I go a little bit further, next year, yes, next year we really want to have our first production, and we want it to be magnificent because the script is magnificent. It's going to bring people to tears. It really will. It's so well done. I say that I didn't do it, and I've read through it dozens of times, and I can't read through it without crying. Still, in multiple parts of the script, I tear up. It's really good. But I'll tell you that we actually have plans for more than one pageant. During that crazy songwriting period I had, there was a second set of songs that came out of that as well. And there's 7 songs for a separate story that is really good too. And it's also about a reverend, and I won't spoil that yet, what that story is. But there's actually a second pageant in the works already. And then there's a third pageant that is in the works too, and I don't want to share that one either. And then there's also a fourth one that your relative David Mackey has had in mind. And so the goal in the end would be, of course, we have to start with one, but the goal in the end would be to kind of rotate through a series of pageants and really make this a tradition that people want to come to Manti and grow in the spirit. All these pageants are very religious in nature, and they'll bring people closer to Christ. And we're not stopping it at one pageant. That's part of the vision that I'm sharing, but I don't, let's just get this one taken care of first, and then we'll worry about the rest.
Okay, so I know you had mentioned, and I'd seen it on your website, you have a goal that you're hoping to raise, right? How close are you to that goal? I know you kind of,
we're not very close. Yeah, so we've had a lot of very generous donors, but we're a very small town. And not, like you said, not everybody's even heard about it. We're doing everything we can to get the word out. And many people have donated a lot, especially given their situation. We're not a very wealthy community. And we're just over $2,000. And so we got to times that by 50. So the word reaching the rest of Utah will hopefully pull in some supporters, thousands more, hopefully, and maybe some supporters with a little bit larger wallets. So.
Awesome. I think it said on your website, or I saw somewhere, that if everyone just donated $20, if you had, what was it, like 500, 5,000, that's better math. Yeah. If they just donated $20 and just, skipped going out to dinner that week or something, that would be what you would need. That would help you reach your goal. So yeah, I think our viewers can do that. So everyone who's watching this right now, yes, if you can head on down to the links, I'll have them down in the video description and also down in the comments. Click on the links, share them with everyone you know, start spreading the word now, and go to the link where you donate. And if you can just donate $20, that would be fantastic. If you can donate more, that would be more amazing. You'll get a lot of blessings, I'm sure. But this is incredible. I feel like this is just the beginning of something so much greater. Like you said, you have more in the works that we're going to see in the years to come, and I'm really excited. And it sounds like if anyone out there has an incredible family history story, they need to send it to Ned. It just might turn into a production, right? I don't know. Not right now. You've probably got a lot on your plate. Yes. Okay. Is there anything else you guys can think of that we don't want to miss, we want to touch on in this interview? No pressure.
I think we've covered a lot. I just say that I really, really believe in this project, and we've all experienced things where we've just been like, "Who's pulling the strings?" It's not us. Like there's work going on the other side. One thing I'd like to share, because this has been very important to me. As I started studying John Lothropp, right off the bat, the first thing I did was go to Family Search and look up Reverend John Lothropp. And I found, there's him and his wife and his family and all the characters from this pageant, which is just amazing to see them there. But one name jumped out to me more than any of the other names. And it was a girl. It was his daughter named Anne. And Anne was born 1616 and died 1617. So just 1 year. And the Spirit just filled me up and said, "This is your narrator. This is who's going to tell the story to the audience." And that's how it's written. The opening song is Anne, little Anne as a child angel, introducing the audience to her family from the other side of the veil. And Anne has become a very important character in the story as we connect heaven and earth in this telling of her family's story. And for the first time, she gets to have a voice and tell her own story. And I have felt Anne's presence so many times as I've worked on this project. It's been really meaningful to me.
Thank you for sharing. I love that. I love that. And I wanted to ask, in the trailer, playing the role of John, the Reverend, who was that?
That's a man named Doug Knapp. There's another miraculous story. He's incredible singer, incredible. I got on our Facebook group, I just said, is there anybody that would be willing to try to organize some singers for me? I need a choir of sorts. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. And then about a week later, maybe it was 2 weeks later, he called and said, hey, can I come over? I want to show you something. And so he came over, and then he said, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, but I'll just show you. And he had recorded himself singing several of the songs. He had gone through all the effort to, he's a school teacher, he teaches choir, and he had gone through all the effort to record his voice in his classroom over the tracks using really rudimentary, methods. And we listened to those. I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. So ended up just getting him into the studio and laying him down for reals. But I mean, he just came out of nowhere, and he's amazing, and just kind of volunteered, and he's really, really good. If you get on YouTube, you can see some of his. If you go to the website, you can see him singing some of the songs, and he's just really good.
Wow. I love it. It's another witness of how God just brings the right people together at the right time. And you know he's a part of it when you're not having to bend over backwards to find talent, to find people. When they just come to you, you just know. And I love that. From everything I've seen, from everything I've heard, even just talking to you the first day that we met, I felt something. I'm like, there's something really special to this. This is going to open up something incredible. This is going to inspire a lot of people. It's going to tell that story of America and fighting for freedom and liberty and what people sacrificed to do that so that we can have what we have today and how we can keep that spirit going. I love it. I love the name of the production. Everything about it is just amazing. And I want to again mention your website, spiritoffreedompageant.com. That's where you can find all the resources, the videos, the about section, see all the people on the team. Everything you want to know is there. I will have that link down below in the comments. I want to thank all of you for being on this call today with me. You guys are incredibly talented, amazing people. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people reach out to you with more questions. So be prepared. But yes, I look forward to opening night, and I'm planning on being there as well. I'm planning on bringing my family down, so I can't wait for the tickets to go on sale. And I wish you guys all the best. You're in my prayers, and I just can't wait to hear how it goes. So thank you so much for sharing your story and doing what you've done. I think it's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for what you're doing.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right, cheers. Bye.
Thanks for watching this video today, you guys. If you can help, please do. Now, I have all of these links down below in the video description and down in the comments. You can help by subscribing to their YouTube channel, following their social media pages, sharing all of their links and content, posting on your social media pages to help spread the word and get people excited, and of course, by making a donation of at least $20, but of course, whatever you can donate is appreciated. And if you can donate more than that, that's even better. This is an invitation to be a part of something amazing, something uniting, and something very inspired by the Lord. I truly believe that. Thanks again for your support and always being so amazing. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time. You suffer from dry, itchy, flaky skin? Tired of wasting money on products that don't work? Hi, I'm Lindsay Reach, the creator of Hydro Heal, a product that's been changing dry skin for almost 2 decades. I created Hydro Heal back in 2008 as a solution for my own dry feet. Countless pedicures and dermatologist visits weren't making a difference. And who has the time or energy for this method? Word on the street spread, and Hydro Heal gained the attention of Shark Tank investors and venture capitalists, launching it on a nationwide TV campaign, gaining interest and attention from celebrities on live TV. See it to believe it demos and try before you buy? Put Hydro Heal in the spotlight, selling out of product at every show. After my feet were transformed, I decided to test it on eczema, dry lips and hands, athlete's foot, and cradle cap. And the results were incredible. Brand new skin in just 7 days. But it gets even better. HydroHeal was also tested on a recovering hospital patient with an ongoing leg wound that would not close. After 3 days, this was the result. A wound that closed, healthy skin, and doctors were amazed. So how does HydroHeal work? It's a solid ointment made from natural ingredients that turns into a liquid on contact with your skin, seeping down into deep cracks, while acting like a bandage, creating an invisible barrier on the surface, protecting your skin from outside elements, allowing it to naturally repair from the inside out. Start feeling more comfortable in your skin today, because everyone should love their skin. Click down below for a special offer or visit hydroheal.com.